Hello, and welcome to a short review of the Hornby James. So, this is actually the second Hornby James I've owned. I had another one on my original layout in about 2010. Not long after I bought him, though, his motor failed him, and I didn't know very much about repairing models, so I just sent him back. He is unfortunately missing his box. I got him in a job lot, and unfortunately all the models in that lot were missing their box. But I'll talk about it later, but the lot didn't cost very much in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, I don't really mind. So, he's actually got a fair bit of detail on his buffer beam. Unfortunately, mine has lost one of his buffers, which is a pity. In fact, the plastic bit is still stuck inside the buffer shank, so it'll be a pain to replace it, but I'll figure it out. His face is really good. I do like that James face. I think it's a fantastic representation of the character. You can see the holes where the lamp irons are supposed to go, but the lamp irons are long gone from my model. His tooling is fairly basic. It's got moulded handrails. There's a little bit of rivet detail, but it is very basic. He does have brass safety valves, though. He does have some very basic cab detailing. My model has had the drawbar replaced at some point, and it is slightly too long, and when you see him running, you can kind of see his tender is a bit too far away. His tender, it does look pretty decent. You can kind of see there is supposed to be a brake wheel, but that's broken off. But the detail is pretty okay. His coal load is a bit tall, and that's because he has the Ringfield motor in his tender, which Hornby were hell-bent on using at the time in basically everything. His tender has moulded handrails, but they actually look okay. They're better than the ones on his boiler. Now, if some of you think this model looks quite familiar, you'd be right. And here's why. Like most of the Hornby Thomas & Friends models, their James is based on a tooling they had lying around, and it was the Triang 3F. You can see my Triang 3F on the left, who some of you might know as Dealey, depending on if you've seen the video on that or not. You can see a thin line on the smoke box and running board where they extended it to make James. You can see they altered the cab windows to resemble the ones James had. You can see where you'd had the handrail on the Triang model, though the James model never came with it. Now, the tenders are completely different toolings. I believe the Hornby James one came from the schools class, but I don't know. If anyone does, please tell me in the comments. So, the James model has been discontinued since about 2017, when Hornby lost the license to produce the Thomas models. Mine's an older one from about 2000. Now, he's a nice model. Depending on what your preference for the character is, if you're a TV series guy, then he's pretty inaccurate. Whereas if you're more into the Railway series, then he's a very good Railway series style James. Now, for a used one of these days, on eBay, they tend to go up for about £150 for a mint condition example. Mine is definitely not mint condition. You've seen he's got some problems. Now, I got him in a lot, and when dividing up the costs roughly per item in that lot, he set me back about £25, which I feel pretty good about. He is a good model, and for that price, I think he's pretty good. So if you're looking for one of these, just wait till the time's right. There's still occasionally a deal does pop up. So yeah, I don't think he's good for £150, but I know he's rare. But if you can find one for a good deal like I did, then I really can't recommend him enough. Now time for some running.